LLMs are dead. Not really, but they're having their cycle and they're hitting a plateau. There's a new type of AI tool model that's coming out that will be in the forefront 2026, 2027. I would say around second half of 2026, you may see this term, world engine. Remember that term, world engine. That is the new AI that you gotta look out for. You gotta learn it. You gotta see how it applies to your business, your use cases, and get on some AI implementation products, proof of concept projects that are using world engines, which is, think of it as predictive analytics on steroids. Hyped up, super fast, but also extremely complex. And it'll provide predictive analytics that, think of it as when they did war games, boardroom solutioning, or even taking a look at identifying industry trends and impact on current markets and future opportunities through that. So many groups and teams have played in this space more in a manual war game, kind of like think tank type process. But in the future, we'll be using AI tools to do all that. And one of these tools will be called a world engine or world model. So think of those. So you hear it, world engine, world model. Some new firms are coming to light, but also existing firms. OpenAI is definitely going to put something out there. This is going to be very expensive, and probably in their enterprise customers will have first access, first dibs on it. Also, they may have Anthropic through Claude. That model will probably have a world engine platform. They might use the same name or they might change the name, but it's going to be a different tool for large scale data based constructs with predictive analytics. So remember that when you start seeing it, study it up, learn it, get on a project that's doing a proof of concept or proving out use cases for this world engine or AI world model tools. So to give it a little more detail, like what is a world model? What do you need to know about it? Well, AI world model is an internal representation of a simulated environment. It's basically, let's take the world or let's take this business, this industry within a market and model it out. And then what we could do is it identifies states, the dynamic interactions, causality, where's a source of uncertainty, and then you could put in specific use cases or scenarios, right? So those that are in like the financial services space may be accustomed to the term stress test. They get a portfolio, and even some of the regulatory agencies in Europe and the US require banks to do this, that have a certain threshold of assets. It's came out of CCAR post financial crisis. They got to do this every year, sometimes multiple times a year if the Fed requires it. So they put all their assets. They take the whole bank and they say, hey, all your assets, stuff like this, everything you have, all the business lines you do, stress test it as if. Hey, what if we have another financial crisis? What if interest rates surge over 200 basis points? What if your main counterparty that you have exposure to goes out of business or has a credit event? And then they run the model and it spits out all these different potential impacts to the price, to the funding liquidity, availability, and other things that could impact the business. And they say, hey, what would your financial statements look like? What would your revenue projections look like? What would your planned line of business and potential sales pipeline look like? Now tell us, how much capital do you need to support the bank through that risk? And what if you had to wind it down? What if you had to close your doors? What would be the overall impact to the economy, to the banking industry? So this type of tool, world engine or a world model, that AI world model, AI world engine, would definitely facilitate an exercise like that. But think of it in other ways of determining what markets to enter for new products and services. Where, if you do it the right way, you could also identify new areas of profit seeking, new areas to corner markets, and also new product or new client groups to address with existing solutions. All right. These things can be used so many ways. It's predictive analytics. Folks can have fun with it. and model themselves to new business opportunities. So one of the things we want to keep in mind is that the world models are have these components. They have state representation, your transition dynamics, observation models, and then the rewards objective models is basically saying how to quantify and specify the outcomes that you want to achieve. So it's like predictive decision making, decision support systems at scale. It allows you to do the experiments, the what if analysis in shorter time periods. Think of it as exponentially faster than what teams are able to do today on their current modeling and data analytics. And then these models learn over time. So you can have a set of scenarios running continuously, and you could project as new inputs are provided. You could rerun your projections. Say, okay, show me for 2 quarters out, 3 quarters out, 1 full year, 5 years, 7 years, and get the anticipated results of these things working in the world model. You need tons of infrastructure, tons of data, especially we'll call it curated data, scrub, with the right identities, the right schemas, the right level of detail, so it makes sense and actually is functional and representative of activity. So for instance, if you're saying, hey, I want to see what happens if my key supplier based in an Asian country no longer can access markets, or if tariffs hit that key supplier, what would be the results, and play this out over a scenario of 3 to 5 years, right? Where would we need to go to get the inputs, and look at that entire industry supply chain, and let's use shipping data. Let's use transportation container charges, container fees, and also let's look at the impact of gas or oil prices in this model scenario. And then you could build that out and determine what adjustments you would need to make. Who would be potential new suppliers? How would they react and interact in that model? And then also identifying risks, quantifying, qualifying those risks so that you can include that and see the impact to the bottom line.